Welcome to Be in Tune. Join me, your host Darien, and my producer Joab, as we have conversations that deepen our connection with our higher power, ourselves, and the world around us. So, get ready to tune in, turn up that volume, and welcome to the Be in Tune podcast. What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Be in Tune podcast. Joab, not gonna lie, you know how you wanted to combine be in tuned, like as in one word?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people want to combine the words. And they're like, it's be in tune, like that's one word. But when I write it out in text form, like on my phone, I get the red squiggly because it's apparently not a word. I'm like, is it a word or is it not a word?
I think it's supposed in tune. That's the word, but you can't be in tuned. Like I guess you can't tune past tense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But like I get what you're saying when you say like be in tune.
Thank you. The intunes. I'm sorry. Thank you. See, we right here. This is why you're my producer. We right here. Yes, in tuned. That's what I'm like trying to say. Like my phone doesn't recognize it, at least in the text format, but I'm sure it's a word. You know?
Yeah. It's a recognizable word.
Right? Like if we're playing Scrabble, come on. 200 points.
True.
I don't know.
When was the last time you even played Scrabble? I forgot all about Scrabble.
Oh, it's been a minute since I played Scrabble. You know, interesting enough, like some games, I like some board games and I don't. I don't know if you noticed when we were like at the retreat, there was just like some games I was like, nah, I'm good. I'll be the host. I was like, I'll be the host of this. It just feels like a lot of pressure. And so Scrabble, I don't know. I'm gonna have to play it again. I think I would enjoy it. I think it would be like a game that I'd be like, yeah, this is it. For me, but the last time I played it, it was years ago. You know what? Next time we get together, like when we're all together, we should play Scrabble.
I'm down.
Yeah. Although you're gonna win with the science words. I know you.
Whoa,
my dude's gonna come out here with some random like science word. I wish I had a science word to say. Oh, but you know what? I can bring the psychological words. I'm gonna bring in all the disorders. Schizophrenia.
That is true. That is true. When you bring in schizophrenia, just believe I'll bring in polydimethylsiloxane or some type of chemical. We'll see.
I can't.
We'll see.
Okay, say that word again.
Polydimethylsiloxane.
Polydimethylsiloxane. What is that?
It's just a typical silicone. Just silicone. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. That's
for the people in the back. What's a silicone?
Wait, okay, so a silicone is like what is even the best way to even describe it? It's kind of like a non-organic plastic, if you will. I guess it's like a non-organic rubber, or rubber is not organic. So it's like a type of like rubber material.
Yes, but I should know this too because like silicones, like.
Yep.
I got it. It's just this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun episode. Let me explain to the audience what we're doing today, and let's just kind of get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are tuning in to the Be in Tune podcast, I just want to. How do I want to put this? Dang, I wish I wrote this down. No, I got this. We are having our first interview today, and allow me to introduce to some, present to others, or just simply get hyped on who we're interviewing. And it is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joab. Okay, so let me explain why I'm interviewing Joab. Joab is our first interview for this podcast. And honestly, when the idea got presented to me, at first I was like, but Joab's part of the podcast. Like Joab's been talking for these last 8 episodes. Joab has
Mhm.
not been staying quiet. He's right there chatting with me. But it was also brought to my attention that we don't really know Joab. Like, and I'm the chatty Cathy between the two of us, obviously, right? So it's safe to say people probably know a little bit more about me than they do about Joab. But Joab, um, what he brings to the table, I'm saying this as a friend, like what he brings to the table, oh my gosh, is just amazingness. Like this is
Dang,
a
Darien.
solid, yes, dude. I'm just speaking true. This is a solid human being. This is a good man right here. So, those of you who are in BTM and are tuning in, yo, look at our boy. We're about to interview our boy. For those of you who don't know what BTM is, you'll learn. We'll explain that in a different pod. Um, so yeah, I'm going to interview Joab. It was kind of cute and funny. We're both before this. We were like, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous to do this. Um, but it's gonna be a good conversation. So let's just kind of like get into it. So Joab,
Yeah.
tell the people, like, in one sentence, who would you say you are? Like, how would you describe yourself actually? How would you describe yourself in one sentence? I know it's a little bit of
Mm.
pressure, but I think you can do this.
Wow, yeah. How would I describe myself in one sentence?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly would say something along the lines of like a stoic, calm one. I think a lot of my friends and family could definitely attest. I've never been the rowdy, the outwardly like expressive person. I've always been like very like internal. I process things internally. I react sometimes internally, and sometimes like if I'm like with other people, then I'm like react outwardly. But in general, I think for the most part, I would say I'm very like stoic. Like I would say even like a bit shy maybe at times, but if I'm around the right people, they know how to bring me out my shell. So there's that. But I think yeah, just keep it as a phrase. I would say like the stoic calm one because I think that's like the best way to really explain like how I am.
Yeah, that is you. Stoic, calm one. Yes. It's so true. Okay. Yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, so this leads to like my next question. Why don't you, because I want you to answer this question and then I'm gonna ask you another question that's gonna kind of be a question that's gonna ask you about your life. But for this next question, why don't you tell folks how you and I met?
Oh, okay, wow, that's
Mm-hmm.
dang. So, Grant. Oh, I feel like we've said this in a pod before. So we've met in BTM, Breaking the Mold Ministries,
Mm-hmm.
which is a virtual online worship ministry that we tune into through Zoom. And I actually was invited back in had to be like 2021. I don't think I recall seeing you there then. I think you were there by then. You definitely were.
I would jump in every now and then. I
Makes
wasn't I
sense.
wasn't so sure about BT. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, okay, this is great.
Makes
That's a
sense.
story. That's a story for a different time. But please continue.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. And yeah, because I don't recall even seeing you there. I do remember, because once you get into like a new group, you always like want to like get to know like who's a part of the group.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I was just always eager about is like, what does everyone here do? Like, what are your jobs? What are what time, like, what do you do? How do you spend your time outside of BTM? So when I heard different professions, there's teachers, mental health counselors, I think a bunch of different types as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, like this is dope. Like, funny enough that like majority of the group is, I would consider mental health counselors or professionals. I think that's kind of what made me realize my passion
Mm-hmm.
in mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I always knew it was something important, but I honestly say being around other like-minded individuals definitely brought that out a lot more. But how we met, I think it had to be like maybe a little bit behind, a little bit before the first retreat. I'll start before the first retreat. A little bit before the first retreat, we weren't really like talking on a regular basis by then. We kind of just like we kind of just knew each other, like, oh, this is Darien.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Darien, you knew me, but like it wasn't like we were talking outside of BTM.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until, honestly, I don't even think it was like the first retreat, like we were still even talking regularly. Like we got like used to each other. We kind of got
Mm-hmm.
established that kind of like connection at the first retreat. But it wasn't until the second retreat that's when things kind of just took off after that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what's so funny? And I never told you this either, but like the one moment that I kind of realized, like, oh yeah, this is gonna be like a really long and like fruitful friendship was, do you remember the time of the alarm when we were
Yes.
outside?
Yes. Yes.
Uh-huh. Yep. And then do you remember that there was a child who lost her parents? And
Yes.
yeah, and then we were trying to find her parents, and then you volunteered to take her to the other building to find her parents. And I don't remember if I volunteered, if you asked me, but I just went along and we went on that journey. I feel like ever since then, it was kind of just like the clink, we're locked after that point.
Yep.
Um,
I remember that.
yeah, yeah. And then I think after that, it was we started a podcast after that. So
There were several steps to that, and actually, I'm
there were
glad.
several steps.
Leave it there,
Hmm.
because that's I want us to take. I want to go back to like how you became you now, and then kind of hopefully we'll get down to the steps that led to the podcast. But actually, going back to that, I remember that night. That first of all, that night was crazy, like crazy, um, and there's just this little girl's just crying, and she was like not understanding everyone, and I was like, oh, instantly I was like, oh, she speaks Spanish, so switched over. But I too knew you were a real one, because I literally just looked at you and I was like, Joab, will you come with us? Because first of all, I'm not about to walk at night with a child that I have
Hmm.
no idea, like no, don't know. Not that like I'm scared for the kid, but it's just like, nah, it's dark, it's woodsy, like safety in numbers here. And I
Right.
just looked at you. I was like, Joab, do you mind coming with us? And you were like, I don't even think you said say less. You just started walking. You were like, of
I think,
course.
yeah,
You
literally.
started walking. But yeah, yes. So going back to BTM though, I wasn't there often in the beginning, but do you know what day I was present for? The day that we voted for the name of BTM.
Really?
I was there. I was like, I should not have any take in this poll whatsoever. Whatsoever.
Wow.
But I was there. I was there for like the naming of this virtual ministry that started in the middle of the pandemic. So we'll definitely talk more about that on a different day. But just wanted to share that little fun fact that I was
Mm.
there. I remember all the options. And then I remember they were like, breaking the mold it is. And I was like, okay, great. See you guys in two
Wow.
months.
Not in 2 months, Darian. I can't. I cannot.
Yeah. But I didn't know that that moment of the fire alarm. You were just like, oh, this is going to be a long lasting friendship.
Hmm. That moment, single. I think out of all of our interactions that we've had, even like up to this point, that one still stood out to me. Um, because to those who don't know that space, like we were, I think having our service, like
Yeah.
I'll let probably someone else explain that story, but we were in the middle of a service, and then coming from that raw, like emotional, spiritual um space, and then going into
Yeah.
this like other space where it's just like, oh, like what's kind of going on,
Yeah.
to now realizing that there's this child who speaks only Spanish that's lost and can't find a parent, and it's just like it's a very like complex but like intimate situation. And yeah, the fact that you and I, we just kind of just like teamed up, just like, okay, let's go solve this mystery and find a parents. It kind of was just like, it really built a layer of friendship that's like deeper than like the surface layer. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why it really stood out to me. Definitely stood out to me.
Yeah. I also remember that Sam wouldn't let us go.
Wait, she would? I think she was doing a head count at that point. That's why. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sam's listening. If Sam listens to this, she's gonna be like, "What the heck? What did I do?" But Sam didn't let us go. She was like, "Nah, you two are not going. Come back. I'm doing a head count right now." I was like, "Oh
Right.
my
Mm-hmm.
gosh!" I wanted to be like, "Sam, there's a lost child," and she was like, "First of all, I need to know who's in my group."
Fair. Fair.
You and I were getting ready to go save the day, and Sam's like, stay here."
Not Sam out here catching strays. We love you, Sam. We
I
love you,
love you,
Sam.
Sam. I love Sam so much. Okay. So when I asked you the first question, thank you for telling people how we met. When I asked you the first question, how you would describe yourself, stoic and calm, right? Quite appropriate. If you were to ask me like how I would describe you, I would say artsy and analytical.
Oh, wait. Actually, I like that. I love that. Yeah.
It's you. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Joab is not just this big time PhD student, right? Um, which, by the way, you have to give people your official, like, you have to tell people what you're getting your PhD in. You will answer that question in a second.
Yeah.
Um, but he is also an artist. And what cracks me up, this story will always stay in my mind. When people, BTF folks, when we were at a retreat, they discovered that you were an artist. And I think someone did a poll. Someone's like,
Mm,
raise your hand if you knew
yeah.
Joab could paint. Like, Joab is a painter. He doesn't just doodle on a napkin. Like, he's a painter. And he did a portrait for one of our friends. Um, and it was amazing that at first people thought she just bought it. They thought that, she just like had that done for herself. And then it was like, no, Joab did it. And then it became a thing for like a good 20 minutes, and they're like, no, Joab paints. And then some people are like, yeah, didn't you not know this? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's a group of us, and then someone was like, someone took a poll. They were like, raise your hands if you know that Joab is an artist, that he can paint. And it was like a small group, like it was a handful of us actually. So you're artsy and analytical, and I want you to please take it from any point you want to take it from, right? Because we're just talking. How how are you both, right? What
Mm.
got your interest in both? So pretty much, Joab, this is the question. Give us your life story. Like, it's not a question,
Ooh.
it's a statement. It's a suggestion, it's a recommendation, it's a request. There we go. It's a request.
A request. A request.
Yeah, because I
Dang.
want I want to know how, like, bro, you're analytical. You even asked me, what's the brain doing when we're comparing? I said, Joab, I have no idea. Like, I mean, of course you would ask this question. And I said,
My
I don't know.
bad.
No, don't, please. If anything, it just made me just chuckle. But then I like when I'm like texting you and you're just like, oh, I'm just here. I'm just painting. Just, just, just tapping into my creative side. So I see you left and right brain. Break this down. How did you
Oh,
become you?
man. Well, you spelled it out so eloquently. Um, yeah, artsy and analytical. I love that. I really love that.
You should have a
So,
T-shirt that says that.
I'm going to talk about this in a second because there's I guess there's this motto that I always followed by since undergrad.
Yeah.
But a little before undergrad, actually I'll go back. Let's go back like 23 years when I was 4 years old.
Let's do it. And please tell people where you were located when you were 4 years old.
When I was 4 years old, I was born and raised in Queens, New York. I actually was born in Flushing, um, but then moved out to Long Island, New York. Pretty much spent the rest of my life there until I moved away to grad school 4 years ago. But
Mhm.
majority of my life has been in Long Island. So yeah, when I was 4 years old, my mother would always tell me that I had this weird obsession, and it's gonna sound crazy. It's going to sound crazy, but this is like the theme of my life. I had this weird obsession of making things stick to walls that don't normally stick to walls. What I mean by that, right? What I mean by that is stickers. I always was fascinated by like stickers on a wall, right? Of course, like
Mhm.
if they were like smiley faces or stuff like that, then like, that's something that I was, I don't know why, I just always thought it was fascinating. Until my mom saw me playing with toilet paper, wetting the toilet paper into clumps, and then throwing it at the bathroom wall to make it stick. And I kid you not, I did that religiously as a kid. Why? It was so fascinating to me how you could take this thing that doesn't have any type of adhesive or can't stick to the wall at all, but once you add water to it and throw it to the wall with some force, it stays there. And at like 4 or 5 years old, my mind was just blown. I'm just like, that's so cool. Now, mind you, like my parents, they always bought me like toys and games, but my mom would specifically say like when I was young, I didn't really like need to like have all the toys because I could just take pieces of paper, shape them, crumple them up to form like these complex structures. I think majority of like my creativity was has gone into taking pieces of printer paper, crumpling them up, shaping them to form like these large, like dragon-like human action figure-like structures, just simply out of paper, right? And that's been like this ongoing theme throughout like my childhood.
Mhm.
Um, the other, and I don't know why, but my uncle from my dad's side, a while back, I guess as a gift, he gave me, I don't know if it was $100 bill or a $20 bill, but either way, he gave me money when I was like, I had to be like 5 or 6 at this point. Um, and what do I do with the $100, $20 bill? I can't wet it because when I wet it, I can't throw it at the wall because it won't stick. But what do? I take the $100 bill, put lotion on it, and then stick it to the wall, and it does stick. Now, I don't know why. I don't know why that was my obsession, but it was. It was like a puzzle to me. Like try to find a way to stick a non-adhesive object to a wall. And that was my game. Um, but I say that to say this, like my because you say like I'm artsy and analytical. I really do believe arts and like having an analytical mind, or for what I call like the science field, they really coexist. Like they absolutely coexist. Um, my PhD advisor tells me all the time, like I'm not just a scientist, but I'm an artist as well. Like those two things are like really important. Um, I believe art is a real measurement of perspective, of different geometries, how they fit together, but also illusions as well. Um, you could look at any picture or any painting, or even just, like some of the paintings behind me, but when you really look at it, all they are just shapes of different colors that fit together. But when you step back and look at it as a whole, they form this illusion of what would appear as like my face in that painting behind me. But what they really are on like the smaller scale of things is just different shapes that fit together. So that's where like the analytical side comes in, because it's like you're trying to put these different shades of colors together. But when the art sides come in is where you try to like then fuse it together to make it look like an actual recognizable face. Um, and I feel like that's definitely the same thing in the science field as well. Whether you're trying to create new types of materials, you can even take that into like astronomy and like looking at pictures for the stars. Like it's a whole different area. And funny enough, I think one of in my PhD, I took a microscope image of one of my samples and I submitted that to an art competition. And it didn't win first place, but it won. It placed in the finalists, which I was super excited about. Um, but yeah, going back to the motto, since undergrad, because like you said, like I've always had an analytical mind, but I always loved the arts. I always loved, music, jazz, especially. I always loved paintings and to paint. But my whole motto in undergrad that kind of honestly got me through the rest of undergrad and into my PhD was I was created to create in the STEM field. That was my motto. I was created to create in the STEM field. I genuinely believe like my purpose, whether it could be science, technology, engineering, or math, I would even extend that to like just anything that can be physically made. That's my purpose. Like, is to form that, is to bring that to life. Um, so yeah, that's why I really do believe, based off of that motto, to combine art and the analytical mind. Like, that's important. That's very important. So yeah, I know that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, like it's essential. I think it's very essential to have both. You need to have an analytical mind and to have a creative, artistic mind as well.
Yeah. First of all, I love that we're having this conversation because I think there is a bit of a stigma, maybe. Um, well, not a stigma. I think there's just like a stereotype. That's what I'm trying to say. Stereotypical
Mm,
way of thinking that you could that you're either analytical or that you're artsy. Um, right? It's like you have to choose one or the other. Um, and some scientists, actually researchers, have been debunking this theory that I'm left-handed, right? So that means I've always heard, oh, so you use more of your right brain because the right brain is the creative part, right? That therefore anyone who is righty tends to use more of what? Their left brain, which is more it's the analytical part of the brain. And a lot of researchers and scientists are like debunking that, like, no, you don't use more more than the other. That's not how this works. That's not how science works, right? Or biology works, right? Um, but they were just saying, like, no, you're using both. You have the capability of both. So I think because someone said something like that, or that was like the stereotype thinking, it was like it led for some folks to believe like, oh, I like left-handed folks, like I could never be in the STEM field because I'm so artsy. I should do something with the arts and all that. And I think it just led to that thinking of like you either have to be this or that. But we use both parts of our brains. Utilizing both parts of our brains helps us to what? Be the whole person that we are. And it doesn't matter which hand you're using, you can do whatever it is that you're interested in. So I hope that made sense, right? Like this is just breaking. I love this convo because this is going to break down any maybe uh or debunk any stereotype thinking. If there's someone out there that thinks that I can't do both, lies. You can. You can have an interest in both because you're made up of both. So
yeah.
I have two follow-up questions. One, the $100 bill that you put lotion on.
Okay. Yeah. I know. I know. I was gonna get slack for that.
I mean, it's not slag. I just want to know, what did your family say?
I mean, it didn't make the $100 bill go bad. Like, you're still able to use it. It's just it was very like slippery and sticky because of the lotion. But they laughed at it, and I think to this day they still bring it up here and there. But like, that was one moment where it was like, whenever they hear, they can't put money and then my name as a kid in the same sentence because that story will come up. So it's a
Oh,
staple. It's a staple.
I love it. I love it. Okay. I was just like, what did they say? Now, if I ever gave you cash, I should just give you a little small bottle of Aveeno. So, just in case.
I mean, I beat that habit now. Trust me. After all these years, I'm good.
Joe would be like, keep the cream. I'll take the cash. I'm good. I know what I can do with this now.
Right, right.
Okay. And my other follow-up question, I just really want to know, like, what happened. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you for
sure,
that.
sure.
Now let's go back to your quote. Please say that quote again, like that motto. That's a good one. Can you please say it again?
Yeah, I was created to create in the STEM field.
I was created to create in the STEM field. Okay. How did you come across this? Like how? Like what led you to that thinking? What led you to the thinking of like you have to be in the STEM field? And also, do you mind just bragging a little bit? Please tell everyone what you're getting your PhD in.
Yeah, I think yeah, I could go into like the educational side of it. So, well, to answer your first question of what started that motto, I'll be honest, I don't even remember exactly. Um, I just remember it was definitely after high school. That's for sure. It was definitely after high school. I want to say like the timing had to be like senior year of high school up until maybe sophomore year of college. That was like the time.
Mhm.
Um, but I yeah, don't exactly remember why I came up with that quote or where it even came from. But I don't know. I think that the main word that stood out to me was just create, 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 create. Um, I would definitely say even like within that same time, which is funny, that it is that timing was. I think that time was yeah, which is actually wow. That's actually very interesting. So that time spiritually for me was one of the hardest ever. And when
Yeah.
I say ever, I mean ever. I honestly think if that motto probably came from that time. Um, so that transition from senior year of high school. So senior year, if you want to talk about the the outstanding student, and I'm not trying to brag, that's not who I am, but if you want to talk about the outstanding student, that was me in high school. Top 25 in my class. For senior awards, I was the male with the most awards in so many different things: drama club, jazz band, marching band, symphonic band, drama club, you name it. I was top in trigonometry. Like I literally was the definition of what Haitians would call is "leko lekai l'église." If you know, you know. In English, it's literally your house, school, and church. Those are the three things you go to. But yeah, I was really like focused in my senior year, and like it definitely paid off. So coming from that high and then going into my first year of college, let me tell you. So that the first university that I went to, or not even I can't
Mhm.
even call it a university, but the first institute I went to was NYIT, New York Institute of Technology.
Mhm.
Um, the first two classes that gave me the most trouble were calculus one and then physics one. When I tell you those two classes, because in the way they do, which is it's so annoying. You have to take Calc 1 and Physics 1 together. Two of the hardest courses for any intro
Yeah.
engineering class. Yeah, so you have to take them together. You can't take them separate. I wish I could take it separate because that would give you more time to study for each individual. That's kind of how I am. I can't take the workload all at once.
Mhm.
That's really hard. So the end of my first semester, no, end of my first year or first semester, I failed physics one, like flat out, got an F, and I got a D in calculus one. And it was at that point that I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this program anymore. And when I went into NYT with majoring in mechanical engineering, so going into that, I was just like, I don't know how to feel about this. And this is where it was kind of conflicting for me spiritually as well, because I honestly genuinely believe like this was like my purpose to be in this field.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
was always interested in the science and math even since high school, or I could even say even since middle school, and it kind of just directed me into going into mechanical engineering.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but it wasn't until that second semester of my first year that I took this another engineering course called engineering economics. Engineering economics essentially is just a course that teaches you about, it's like a finance course, but how engineers kind of approach finance when they talk about working on different projects. Like how much are you willing to invest? What's the cost per year? So anything like finance related, going into like engineer like project management, that's kind of like the course for it. And that was another course that definitely gave me a hard time. And I think that I got a C in that course, And that was like the nail in the coffin for me, where it was just like, honestly, I don't know how to feel about this program anymore. And like I said, it was conflicting because engineering was what I love to do. I genuinely loved engineering, the whole idea of the field in general. But I'm in this program that was extremely hard. So you have like these opposing forces. One force is like you want to pursue engineering, but the other force is pushing against that, saying that essentially that you're not at that level yet to pursue this. And it was hard for me. It was a really hard pill to swallow. Um, I'm lucky. Not even lucky. I'm blessed to have this one friend who was taking all those courses with me. His name was Doug. Shout out Doug. I haven't like heard from him in a minute, but me and him used to go to the same school. But he also had the same dilemma. He was also failing all the classes, and then that's when he told me like, "Oh yeah, honestly, like screw this school. I'm about to transfer to Farmingdale, because they also have a mechanical engineering program." And my boy goes there, and he says it's he loves it, and it's way more less stressful, I would say. If and I kid you not, if I didn't hear that conversation that from of what he said of transferring to Farmingdale, I would have never gotten the idea to transfer to Farmingdale. I would have never gotten the idea to transfer to Farmingdale, and I think I would just either suffer through it and like probably fail through it because the program just it was really really hard and that wasn't my learning style, or I would honestly, I would even know. Like, I would not even know. But thankfully, I did hear that comment, and like I processed the transfer to go to Farmingdale, and I did go to Farmingdale, which I was able to pass Physics One and Calc One, and even Physics Two, Calc Two, um, just because of the learning procedure at Farmingdale. It's a bit more, like I said, less stressful. It still was hard. There were definitely a lot of hard courses that I had to take, especially in junior year. For those who are in mechanical engineering or any type of engineering field, fluid dynamics, heat transfer, or applied thermodynamics, y'all know. If you know, you know. Those three courses, especially for me at least, applied thermodynamics, hardest course. But I made it through. I graduated, and yeah, going into what prompted me to do a PhD now. I actually started my junior year of undergrad where I had the opportunity of doing an internship at a government research facility, Brookhaven National Labs. I love it. Love Brookhaven National Labs. It's like a world outside of Long Island. It's a DOE, Department of Energy Research Facility, and I entered there for the summer, and literally ever since there, it was just like my love for science grew exponentially. It really did. And I remember speaking to some of the scientists that I was working with. One was a mechanical engineer, the other one was a biomedical engineer, which I wasn't expecting because I didn't really know too much about biomedical engineering. My kind of pursuit was really mechanical engineering. Um, but when I spoke to that biomedical engineer, honestly, whenever I hear biomedical, I think of course, medicine. You think of um, prosthetics is another hot topic in biomedical engineering. But he was talking about materials. He was talking about like materials that he makes, and I'm like, a biomedical engineer making materials. I've never thought that that's what they do. Because the funny thing with biomedical engineering, mechanical engineering, and honestly, chemistry, material science, all of them, they're very knit together. They're very close in terms of like their applications.
Hmm.
Um, so even though like I had an undergrad in mechanical engineering, I can go straight into biomedical engineering and it will still work seamlessly. So hearing that, that's when I pursued a PhD, skipped straight over the master's and went straight for my PhD program. Um, because I knew like that's exactly what I wanted to do. So I applied for a PhD in biomedical engineering at Binghamton University, which is where I currently am. On the way, now that I'm in my fifth year, which is crazy to say, I'm in my fifth year. I've gotten my master's year 3 of my PhD program, but yeah, it's so interesting being in this space now because there were so many different events throughout my life that it had to line up that way, because if it didn't, I literally wouldn't be in this position right now. If I hadn't gone through that crisis my first year, I wouldn't have the chance to even feel like this bottom be at this bottom pit, to have this model of, that I'm created to create in the STEM field, to then have this conversation with Doug to talk about transfer to Farmingdale. And then once being at Farmingdale, I wouldn't have even gotten that internship at Brookhaven, which wouldn't even like let me be enthusiastic about getting a PhD and then being in the space now. Like everything had to line up. It had the way it had to. So in terms of the educational side, like that's literally like how I got here, pretty much. I know. Yeah,
It
I
was like
know.
watching a movie. It really was. In my head, it was just like watching a movie. Okay, okay. First of all, thank you, because you answered the question. Now I was like, we gotta go back because there's just some things that need to be stretched out a little bit more,
Yeah.
in my opinion. You mentioned that in high school you were just like that guy. One question: what instrument do you play? It's not what did you play. I know you still may play this instrument. I know you sing. We all got a glimpse of that when you sang the Soul Glow. That's always gonna come in.
It
But
is.
what instrument do you play? Because you were in like band and jazz.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I played the trumpet. I played the trumpet. Yeah, I played it. I think I started. Was it fifth grade or fourth grade? I think fourth grade. Yeah, fourth grade is when I started, and up until 12th grade. So
Okay, I see you. I
yeah,
see
yeah.
you. Who's your favorite jazz artist?
Ah, what a loaded question. My gosh. Honestly, I listen to bands mainly. The one band who really, like, when I say really has my attention, is the 8-bit big band. They're unique, and there's like I guess there's a genre for these group of musicians as well, because they um play like musics from video games, but they have their own arrangements to it where they make it special. So it still has the same melody as the original video game music, but they have their slight twist. And I feel like the 8-bit big band really does a really great job with how they rearrange the original music. So the 8-bit big band definitely on my list. Some current saxophonist that I really love too is Sam Greenfield. He's actually really, really good as well. I love Sam Greenfield. Another band that I love is the Jacob Mann Big Band. Honestly, I'll say those are my top three. Top two would be the 8-bit Big Band and then the Jacob Mann Big Band. Those two are just like definitely top two for me. But
I love
yeah,
it.
I'll stop there because if I keep going, I'll go forever.
I understand. The musician in me, I was like, first of all, I have to ask this question before I get into something else. But who was the artist that inspired you to play the trumpet? Was it
Ooh,
Armstrong by any chance? Louis Armstrong? Or
surprisingly,
or was it Davis?
I don't even think I got into it because I was inspired by their music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it was more so I literally just got into it because I just love music in general. If it was up to, I remember it still plays in my head. I remember when you first signed up for band in the public school, they asked you to fill out this form for the three options in order of like what would you like to play. If I knew that when you pick would be what you'd be playing for the rest of your life, I would have thought more carefully of how I ordered it. Not saying I didn't like the trumpet, but I could definitely say that that wasn't my first choice. I think that was like my third choice actually. Um, First choice was percussion. Second was alto sax, and then third was trumpet. But yeah, they chose me for trumpet. But yeah, I just love the music. I don't think I had a love for the musicians just yet. I think that came later on. So when you say like other musicians that played trumpet, I think of Dizzy Gillespie, you said Louis Armstrong. Um, so yeah, I think learning about who played before that kind of translated to like my love for the people who play now. So yeah,
I love that. I love that. Jazz is such an underrated genre in my opinion.
I agree. I agree.
Like, I mean, jazz enthusiasts obviously would not think that, but like it's just such an underrated genre. Fun fact: I took a music because we're gonna transition to high school. I have a high school question for you. So, my senior year of high school, I was able to take some electives. I was able to take one elective, and I was just like music history. I heard about that class, and I was like, I want to take a music history class. And I remember learning about when jazz was created, like when it was established, and I was just like enamored. I never had so much fun writing a paper. And
Hmm.
if anyone knows me, my grades in school could tell you I didn't like writing papers. Like not my
Fair.
ministry, as they say, not my ministry.
Fair.
Uh, but that I was just like, oh, I never did Miles Davis play trumpet? I should feel like I should know this, but did he play trumpet or did I get that confused?
I want to say
I think I may
he
have
played
gotten that confused.
sax.
Yes. Oh
I
my
think because I think yeah, the two top sax players
gosh.
were John Coltrane and Miles Davis. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no. No, no. No,
No, he
no.
played.
No, no. He played trumpet.
Oh dang, dang, that's bad
I'm
on my
sorry. It
part
was
then.
a very intense moment. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm recalling this. I when you were like, no, he played sax. I was like, wow. I feel like the worst music history nerd. This isn't about me, but in this moment, this is about me. He was a trumpeter because I remember learning more. I remember we took a section. We took some time in the class to talk about the different trumpeters throughout like American music history. So of
Hmm.
course Armstrong was definitely talked about, but so was Davis, and like how Davis actually took like the skill sets to a whole other level.
Oh, dang. Maybe I should have took a music history class because I feel like I've seen a video that they played probably like way back, like early grade school.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much why I know a little bit about them. But
yeah.
yeah, music history is interesting.
I want to go back to your high school. The part of the story when you're talking about high school, and
Hmm.
you said, senior year, you were just like that dude, right? With the academics, you're killing it. You're making your Haitian parents extremely proud and your ancestors. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure they're saying he's going to do big things, this dude, right? Then we fast forward to freshman year of college, and it's just not working. And it's
Yeah.
not because you're lazy. It's not because you're not interested. It's not because you're dumb. It's not because of any of like the narratives that can pop up, right?
Hmm.
And when we're having our hard time when something is not working out for us. But I actually would like to know like how were you feeling during that time? I mean, you mentioned that it was a downtime for you, but if you don't mind, can you get kind
Hmm.
of more into the feelings aspect of it? And I think you may have referred to this, but is during that time was that a time that you found yourself kind of getting kind of close to God because you were in that pit, or was it a time you were just like I don't got time for the calculus, the physics, and let alone Jesus?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. I mean, so I remember, I can't say if I was necessarily drawing closer to God, if or if I was drawing away from God. The reason why is because I remember that period of time was a time like where I asked, honestly, I would say I asked the most questions of like,
Mm, mhm, mhm,
why would you put this passion in me to be in the science field, but then not produce once I'm trying to learn to be in the science field, to prepare myself to be in the science field? I think that was the hardest question for me to ask, because again, like, it was my passion. That's, it's not
mhm,
something that like I could do. Yeah, I could do it, but I also love doing it as well. So like, why did I feel like I wasn't fully prepared? Um, and then also praying to be prepared, because it's not like you just said, it's not like I was just, you know putting my textbooks away and watching TV. Like, no, I was studying. I was studying,
mhm.
but still wasn't getting it. And just asking God, like, I'm preparing for it, why am I not getting it? Um so yeah, like, I could honestly say, like, maybe I was like drawing away from God. I could definitely say I was, because like, again, most of the questions I asked were just like, I don't know why this is happening to me. Like, why is it happening to me? Um and in terms of how I was feeling, I think that kind of just spells it out. Like, it was a very, I can't say like that was the first time I felt depressed, or maybe it was, because honestly, I could say even in high school, I can't say I felt depressed. I think the depression definitely came definitely in college, because you're juggling a lot. It's not like high school where it's like, yeah, you have your homework and assignments per class. But college is a different beast. And it really is. And with high school was just fun. Like, yeah, there were moments where it was like, it was difficult. Yeah, you got a bad grade on a test. Okay, like, you could still like progress forward. It's not the end of the world, and that's genuinely how it felt like. But for college, it literally felt like, yeah, like, if you don't do good at this, then what are you gonna
Yeah,
do for the rest of your life? And I kind of feel like that might be a stigma, where it's like, if you don't excel in college, then the rest of your life is kind of messed up, which genuinely is not true. Um, there's a lot, like you just said, there's different meanings for why you're not progressing.
yeah.
um in terms of for feelings, like, yeah, like I said, depression. I honestly would even say the beginning, or rather the birth of imposter syndrome, which I didn't even realize
Mm,
back
mhm.
then,
Talk about it.
started it
Talk
started
about
that
it.
first year. I kid you not, if it wasn't, because, like, how do you go from being top 25 and having all these accolades? I'm talking about, like, the person who's reading the awards to me had to stop me from walking across the stage to grab my awards, because she wasn't done reading the list. How do you go from that, like, high amount of accolades to now failing the course and having to transfer? It's like two completely different worlds.
Yeah.
So I would have to imagine, like, that huge traumatic transition and experience birthed what I now know is imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not good enough. Because I thought I was good enough when I graduated high school,
Yeah.
but then once I got into undergrad, my first year, that knocked me off my high horse. So I could definitely say, like, yeah, imposter syndrome definitely was birthed at that moment. Maybe it didn't take in full effect. Maybe it wasn't at 100%. But it definitely started to creep in, for sure. Definitely did.
I'm so glad that you said that. So glad that you said that. Because I don't think a lot of us take time to ask ourselves the question of, when did I start having this narrative that I have of
Mm,
myself? And it could be whether it be positive or negative, but specifically the negative narratives, right? Um, when did this occur? I mean, listen, taking time to reflect is not like part of like a lot of people's routines, right? It's like,
mm,
I don't got time for that. I gotta get up and go make this money and continue living my life. Or I really do not want to think about it. I'm just gonna just let it lie and keep going. it's good though to be able to ask yourself the question of like, where did this thought come from?
Hmm.
When was it birth? And I love that you used the word birth there. You're just like, this is, I'm not gonna lie, this is where imposter syndrome was birth. So
Yeah.
I do have like a little random question. Did you by any chance like feel that pressure that freshman year when like things were just not going your way? Were you just like, oh my goodness, here I am doing the thing, right? My parents came here from a whole different country. They tried to provide me and my siblings, with the best, and here I'm not producing, aka the best.
I could. So yes, but I think not to the point of like my immigrant parents came here to kind of give me the best. Even though that was if it was very important to me, I don't think that was like the underlying thing. I think what really was is I would say partially comparison because I had two older sisters also that were also in doing their education. I think my oldest sister, she probably graduated by that point when I first went in. I know my second oldest sister, she just went into criminal law. So she was doing criminal law. I think she was close to like her last year.
Hmm.
And my oldest sister, I think that's when she just graduated with a degree in biology. So it's like you have two people older than you that kind of went through the same process as you,
Yeah.
um, but you don't hear so much about like their shortcomings and like some of the setbacks that you had to face because we all faced them. Me and my two sisters, we all faced our own individual setbacks. But me back then, as a 19-year-old, suffering with like the academics, um, not knowing that like that's kind of what comes with like the college experience at times definitely kind of made me look inward a lot more and just like yo like what's wrong with me like if they were able to still progress in their criminal law degree or from an older sister to graduate with by in a degree in biology like why couldn't I just pass a simple class so I think it definitely like that definitely weighed on me. I can't really say the pressure from my parents like that's not like that was never a like there was never really a pressure specifically of like you have to do good in school, but I guess there kind of was. It just like it wasn't implied. I mean, it kind of was implied, but it wasn't said exactly. It was kind of just like you guys are all smart. We done everything we can to raise you very well, and like you guys like have chosen your own path to go into your own individual like educational like roles and institutions. So it's like they kind of like raised us in that way. Um, it never was said, but it kind of was implied. If you do stray off, like, are you kind of straying off from the way that they raised you? So I feel like it's kind of like
Mm,
a Haitian tactic, but it's very like indirect, if you will. So yeah,
how Caribbean.
very Caribbean, very Caribbean. Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so yes, that was totally adding to your imposter syndrome of just like you had two older sisters that were doing the darn thing, you know what I mean? They were making moves and here comes freshman year and you're just like, I'm taking physics and calculus.
Hmm. Hmm.
This isn't easy. And then I take another class that you would think that class would you would do well in it and you're like, okay, maybe it was just simply just physics and calculus happening at the same time. But then it's like, no, we're not doing well in this either. So okay, we're in a low point, right? Then here comes Doug just talking about like, man, I'm dipping out of this school. I'm going to a whole other school. You over here and you're like, let me try that. Let me do that. I have to admit, I admire the fact that you were just like, I'm gonna try something different. Because I think someone else would have been like, it's clearly ain't cutting it. It's clearly not working. So
Yeah,
you know, I'm gonna stop here while I'm at it before it quote unquote gets worse. Why is it that you think you
yeah.
didn't quit? Why is it that you think you were just like, I'm gonna pivot and try something different? I'm not
I
trying to
just
psychoanalyze you. I'm just
no.
highlighting that point.
No, no, you're good. You're good. I mean, I think it really just goes back to, well, we spoke about your core belief, right? Like core
Yes.
beliefs.
Yes.
If one of my core beliefs is that I genuinely believe I'm created to create in the STEM field, if that's what I genuinely believe, even though like there's another force pushing against me, like there has to be some will or some direction that I can go into for me to then fulfill that core belief, because that's genuinely what I believe about myself, you know? And to not try to find another way to pursue it would be, I don't know what that's kind of called in like the psychology realm, but like it's, I guess like I view it as a way of like you're not being true to yourself, really. Um
Yeah. No,
yeah,
it's a great
like
way of phrasing it.
yeah, I think that's just the perspective. Like if I genuinely view that way, then I have to pursue it. Maybe not the same way I've been pursuing it, but like go at it at a different angle, you know? Like quitting in general, like that was not an option. It probably was a thought, but I don't think it never was an option.
But this also shows how your analytical mind was coming into play. Because remember, if we go back to the beginning of this, we can go back to 4-year-old Joab, who was just so curious on how to make toilet
Mm,
paper stick to a wall. We
yeah.
can go back to little boy Joab, who was just like, I got this piece of paper that's money and it's different. I can't just wet it per se, but let me try putting lotion on it and
Hmm.
sticking it to the wall. So, bro, it was already in you. Like, this is like, this is just you.
Yeah.
You're not a quitter. You're just going to be like, all right, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to see what else could work. What else could I make stick to the wall?
Yeah. Wow. Hmm.
How does that
That's I
feel to
love.
have that
I,
realization?
yeah, I didn't even think of it like that. You know, because I think in the program requirements for mechanical engineering, one of the main requirements is like you have to be good at decision making. It's like, okay, what does
Ah,
that mean? Like I can make decisions. I know what I want for breakfast. I'll just have, toast with
mhm.
eggs, like I'm good at making decisions. But like it makes sense now because it's not just those kind of decisions. It's like the decisions of like, if when you decide something but it doesn't work out, and you keep on deciding something and it doesn't work out, what is your next decision that can be different from the other ones to then maybe not make it work but help you progress, even if it's like 1%. um I think you need to have those kind of decision making skills. Otherwise you'll just keep going back in the same loop of like, okay, if this didn't work, then I'll just keep doing it. And that's the definition of insanity, just doing the same thing expecting a different result, but you never get that different result. So yeah, and I love how you put that, because I never realized that those moments when I was young of like trying to like approach things at a different angle, um, man, like that definitely plays a role. Um, and I love, especially with child psychology, when they say like you shouldn't do too much for your kids, because that's how it helps them like kind of grow and learn. I could definitely see that. I mean, I know with my parents, when it came to my creativity, boy, did they not put a limit on my creativity. My goodness. Especially my dad. My dad was, the one thing he did is like really, I will consider him a strict parent, but one thing he was definitely not strict on was my creativity. Like he definitely gave me the freedom to explore music, explore the arts, explore um nature, like they're
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
just give me that freedom to explore. Um and that's probably why like I'm, artsy and analytical, like you say, because like I had that freedom to explore when I was young. And like, like you said, now in undergrad, being faced with this decision, like now giving myself the space and freedom to then explore different options and different, avenues. So yeah, it's weird how it's all connected. That's interesting. And I'm like processing this in real time too. Like, so it's interesting.
It is. And shout out to your dad for, giving you that space to just explore. And shout out to your parents for them to just not, when you put the lotion on the $100 bill, to not have been like those parents would be like, "Are you kidding me? Money doesn't grow on
Hmm.
trees. What's wrong with you? We could
Hmm.
use that to like buy groceries." Instead, they're like, "This is hilarious."
Yeah.
But they were seeing that was already in you. They're like, he doesn't even want the latest toys. He just wants toilet paper and water. And
Yeah.
he's sticking it,
Just stick it to him.
sticking.
I never even thought about like if my parents were even complaining of, because I was using printer paper, and if you know printer paper, like you buy that by the bulk, and sometimes they're not cheap. So I wonder if they ever complained of like how much printer paper I was using.
They probably, you know what? They probably have like a little black book, and it's just like the what Joab owes us when he makes it big time, and then like
Oh.
knowing that you are getting your PhD, and they're like, oh, this black book is going to come to fruition. He's
Mm-hmm.
going to owe us big time. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
kidding. I don't know. I've never spoken with your parents. I never met your parents, so I wouldn't even. I wouldn't
True.
even know.
True. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe, or just maybe they were just like, this is our son. This is our son. He just has that inquisitive mind, and
Mm,
we pray that he'll do something big with it too.
yeah,
It's also a possibility. So you highlighted that you have two older sisters, right? So you're the baby.
I am. I am.
Look at that. Look at that. I wouldn't know what that is. I'm the oldest. So okay, nice. Okay,
Mm,
cool. So now I'm gonna go back to you switching to a different school, right? Farmingdale. Is that what you said?
mm-hmm. Yep.
Switching over to Farmingdale, right? It sounds like things definitely started to shift for you. You started to see like, okay, it wasn't that I couldn't do it. It wasn't that, I wasn't smart enough to do it. It wasn't that, whatever other narratives that may have been popping off in your head. It was just like a change in environment, a whole different scenery, right? And not only that, just like a, a better class schedule for me so I can succeed in this. So by this point, right, that motto of yours, I was created to create in the STEM field, right? That was already your
Mm-hmm.
motto, right? And so I want to ask this question. When in your schooling, right? Because thank you for breaking down like how like listen, I went to this school, then I ended up interning at this place, and that's when I really set my mind. I'm like, oh, what PhD in uh medical engineering? This is amazing. I'm doing this, and I saw your photo on Instagram of like your sample that you took.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, look at this dude. Look at this dude. I was like, he's so artsy. I love this. That was a dope photo too. I was like, okay, okay, Joab, I see you. I see you with the microscope. I see you.
It's my specialty. I like it. I like it.
I love that. So, when did what do you think God's answer would be to you right now when you ask those questions of like, why did you bring me here? Why did you bring me here for
Wow.
me to not succeed? What do you think God would tell you now?
I mean, that now it makes 100% complete sense. I so there were still some questions because granted, I applied to a few colleges, NYT, and also Farmingdale was one of the colleges I applied to,
Oh,
but Farmingdale rejected me when I first applied. Yeah, yeah. Farmingdale
bro,
reject.
bro,
Yeah,
this was an important piece of the story.
I know. I completely forgot about it too. But Farmingdale rejected me. So I
No
applied to
way.
yeah. So I applied to NYT, Farmingdale, and a few other schools. But Farmingdale, I think, was probably the first one that reached out and rejected me. So I was like, dang, okay. So that's when I went to with NYT. But that part still I'm not sure about, and I think will still remain a mystery to me because it was just well, if I was gonna go into Farmingdale anyways, why even go through the process of NYT, which wasn't cheap because it was a private school? Why even go through that path if I was just gonna end back up at Farmingdale? I still don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is like I definitely had to have that bottom pit moment because that's what really defined who I am now. Because who I was 12th grade and before, like that was still me, that was still Joab, but that was a version of Joab that if I was still that same version today, like I would not be prepared, which is crazy because remember I said I didn't feel like I was prepared, but like that bottomless pit moment was kind of preparing me to like grow into or being able to grow into that next phase of where I am now, to handle all that I'm going through now academically. So yeah, those questions make sense now. Like it definitely makes sense. Like why is it that I'm struggling? Why is it that I'm having a hard time with this? Is because like it's like that transition moment. Just like I was transitioning from high school to undergrad, I'm also transitioning analytically as well. So yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I just don't know why I couldn't go straight to Farmingdale. It would have saved me some loans, but I wouldn't change how it panned out though. That I would not. I definitely would not.
I think it's always like I think it's a question, a common question for a lot of us. Like when we go through stuff to only get to what it is that we desired in the first place. It's like, well, why did I have to take all these left turns? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why have all of a sudden like an additional amount of student loans? Like, why go through a depressive state? Like, why couldn't we just go as planned? And I think you answered the question though. Um, I mean, obviously, I can't just like say, "Hey, God, you're up for the pod next week, and I'm gonna interview you," right? So you can give us the answer to this question. But I think you answered an aspect of that question. You said, "When I hit that pit, it my character got developed
Mm-hmm.
into who I am today." And
Yeah.
I said too, I was like, "This was in you already. You were already doing this. Like pivoting is just your thing, your curiosity. You trying to make the problem solve the problem or make something work. You're just gonna go about it differently." Um, but the way you said it, you're like, I when I hit that rock bottom, that really brought out who I am today. It really developed that character in me. And so I wonder, were you prepared to go your first year to Farmingdale?
Was I prepared? Wow, that's a really good question.
You don't have to answer it. We can just leave that as like a rhetorical like question, like or a reflective question, right? Like, do you think you were prepared? Now, hearing that you got rejected from Farmingdale and you ended up going there later. I got rejected from one school and I still got beef with it, but I was like, God, am I gonna end up being a professor there? Because that would be hilarious. Like that would or do some work from there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no. Actually, um, I think I developed somewhat of a connection with that school for therapy. So
Huh. Wow.
it's like maybe
There
I
you
wasn't
go.
meant to go to school here, but maybe I could develop a working connection there.
Yeah, I mean that's how it is sometimes.
Yeah. But like that question is like, do we think we were prepared? Because I know that don't know exactly where we read this in the Bible, but I've definitely heard too that God puts us through like a pruning season.
Mm-hmm.
That it's a season that not for like his just like enjoyment, it's for our betterment. That we have to be prepared to receive what's going to come like next, to receive whatever blessings may come next. Be prepared to do the next big thing. Um, and such. So I wondered if there was just like I just wondered that question. Like, do you think you were prepared to go to Farmingdale
Mm.
at 18? Maybe you needed to go at 19.
True. True.
I don't know, but I'm not God either way. I just wanted to ask that question. Okay, so now tell me, in your years of like education and all that, when did your relationship with God deepen, because that model that you live by is such a spiritual model. Because I'm thinking instantly creation. I
Mm-hmm.
was created to create in the STEM field. I literally just got transported back to like just like Genesis, right? And reading about how God created the heavens and the earth. First of all, I think
Yeah.
you would have had an absolute field day if you could have been there when God did that. I think you would have been like, now let's make this stick to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm
Yep.
saying? But that's like such a like a spirit filled motto. And you're just like,
Yeah.
I just I don't know where it came from, but it also just works well with what you're doing now too, because you are creating just exactly what you said in the model. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
created, so I was made to make things in this field.
Yep.
So
Man,
tell me a little bit more about that.
you just unlocked a memory for me. I think I recall writing in my notes. I know it's not in my notes now because it has to be like an old iPhone. But that motto, I remember I made like a whole sermon, if you will, out of it, like being created to create in the STEM field. I remember I had like this long like note section of like why I felt like so strongly about it. Um, and I want to say like yeah, there was reference to like God creating the world in Genesis and why that was just so important and powerful. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's still gonna remain like I don't fully remember. I don't fully know. It's
Yeah.
just some things you just feel so strong about that you just can't forget. You know, I have a lot of things like, and I think it's probably because like of all the stuff I've learned throughout school. Um, you know, my brain storing all that new information, but just that one thing I just will never forget is just that I was created to create in the STEM field. You know, I'm glad that I brought that up because I know one day that whole reason is gonna come right back in like a big way. And it's just all going to make sense because like even though I'm in my fifth year of my PhD, I don't think I still see the full picture just yet. I know the trajectory and where I'm going, but I don't really know. I don't think I see just yet the full picture of why everything panned out the way it had to pan out. I feel like I'm still going through that process.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see like what was the reasoning behind that. Like what was the reasoning for me being so intrigued of sticking toilet paper to walls and money with lotion to walls and making things with my hand. Like what was the reasoning behind that? So
I'm looking forward to seeing that motto really just play out in your life, like to come even um to be fulfilled even more, I should say, right?
mm-hmm.
Because you and I have talked, right? I think you and I were definitely when we were at the retreat. You were talking to Cherie mainly, but I was hearing you, say like, I got some decisions to make, right? We also got a chance to talk to, I think, the three of us about like next steps for you. Where do you want to like work
Mm-hmm.
and all of that? And I just, yeah, that motto is still there. Like, but what's so amazing? You're like, I can't see the full picture. It's also really important for us to look at the picture that's already being created.
Mm-hmm.
I like to look at life as a puzzle, even though I don't do puzzles, right? I should start. I think it would be really good for me on the mindfulness end, but also anxiety provoking. Because if you give me like 5,000 piece puzzle, I'm gonna be like, take this box back. I don't want this.
Yeah, no.
But the baby ones, like the 8 piece, I'm solid. Let's go. Let's
That's
go.
fair.
Right? Maybe I'll just challenge myself with like a 50 piece. We'll just see.
Yeah.
But I've said this in the context of like therapy, like the more information I get, we're putting a puzzle piece together. We're putting the puzzle together. And hearing just your life so far, and granted, Joab, there's like more to this, right? But the puzzle that you're making so far, it's like it's beautiful because it's like you really see, like you said it. everything just connected. Things happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I want to just like kind of encourage someone to uh, look back on the puzzle or the picture that is being made. Sometimes we get so caught up on like what is the big picture? What am I going to do next, right? What's going to happen? Anxiety, right? Like how is this future going to work out? And it's sometimes you're just not going to get your answer right away. Sometimes you just got to look back at what's been created, how things have worked out, right? And maybe that can give you the assurance that things will work out.
Yeah.
You feel that model so strongly in your life. I was created to create in the STEM field. I am looking forward to see like what is that gonna be. But dude, my dude, you've already been creating, which is crazy. Like you've
Yeah.
already been doing this. So
Yeah.
this is exciting. Exciting and deep.
Both, yes.
So now I want to kind of go back to us, right? Going back to how we met and everything. So thank you for sharing your story up to like what you're currently doing now. You're in your fifth year of getting your PhD in biomedical engineering. My dude is hella smart, right? And he's artsy, right? Um, but I think there's a question I really want to ask you. It's just like, why be a producer on a podcast? Right? So let's kind of take this back to like, okay, it was the second retreat. No, the third. Is it the second or the third? No, it's the second
The
retreat. It was the
second,
second
yeah.
retreat. Yes. Second retreat that you and I think at this point, you and I have already talked more, right? Because we were
Hmm.
in book club together, right? And we were just like, book club is just like, it's just a time. It's just a time to be had, right? And it's a time, and you're not wrong that BTM definitely focuses a lot on mental health too, because people are just getting vulnerable and talking about the different stages of life that they're in and what they're learning and how they're growing. I think honestly, majority of the people have gone to therapy, or a majority of people are in therapy. They're like, I got a therapist, this is great. I'm
Hmm.
like, awesome, keep doing your thing. But the second retreat, though, you and I started to connect. We chatted a bit, but what really kind of uh, cemented the relationship that leads me to this question of why be a producer for this podcast? Why do a pod with me? And if you want to throw in first impressions in there, that would be fun too.
Because you remember what I said about first impressions?
Uh, no, I just generally want to know. But what did you say about
Oh,
first impressions?
wait, dang. Well,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't remember. I'm just
wait,
being honest with you.
wait. Are you talking more for the pod or for how we became friends?
Friends, us, how we became friends.
Yeah, how we became friends. Yeah. So, um, this is gonna sound harsh, but I promise you, like that it's not harsh. I just
I'm
rem
so excited.
I just remember out the blue you asked like Joab's a cool dude. Like I feel like we should be friends. I don't think that's exactly how you asked, but I remember that's what you said. Like you said that to yourself. And the first thing I thought to myself was, oh, like Darien's a therapist. Is she trying to psychoanalyze me?
I
And
do
I'm
remember this. I do
yeah.
remember you saying this.
And I remember when I told you that I was like, I'm sorry if you feel triggered. I don't mean you no harm. I'm pretty sure as a therapist and to all therapists, they probably get that 24/7 to like all their friends. But I come to realize now like you don't psychoanalyze. You actually and I could. It's so funny when you have this little tendency where it's like um you will try so hard not to wear your therapist hat when we're having a discussion, and I could just see you like tensing up or like kind of like sitting back further into your chair trying not to say something. I can't.
Not you observing me, Joab. Not you observing me. But
Yeah.
it's so true. It's so you know what's so funny? I honestly don't think I ever present as a therapist. Like
Hmm.
Even to this, like, even with this pod, people be like, "Is she a therapist?" Like, that's what I think that people are thinking. Is she a therapist? And I would think the same thing too, because I'm not the most eloquent speaker. I'm not throwing like the consistent like clinical terminology. I don't know. I'm stereotyping my therapist friends. I apologize. I sincerely apologize. It's just I just sometimes one I forget that I am one, and two I'm just like I don't view myself as one. I just
Hmm.
I don't know. Just like listening to people all day is just it's what I do. But it's like it's a passion of mine too, because I'm like we all should be heard. That's just my mentality.
I gotcha.
So
That
when you
makes
were like when
sense.
you told me that you're like, are you gonna psychoanalyze me? I'm like, no, because I think didn't I say I was like I need a break. Like I think
Yeah.
it's like
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
but I was like, no. And I died laughing. I'm like, I genuinely do not want to. I just don't.
Hmm.
But you're right. You're right. Because when I'm trying not to, when I because there's just some things that are said, I'm like, but what about this behavior?
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
true. Okay, yes. So I sent you this is hilarious. I sent you an Instagram DM. Like I sent you a DM and I was like, "Hey Joab," because I didn't have your number at the time.
Hmm.
I was like, "Hey Joab," because at this point when we were friends, like I saw your amazing all the amazing things you do, the hilarious jokes too. Joab one time posted a video of like he's in the lab and somehow like he created something that looked like a web.
Yes. Yes.
My dude was like doing like
Hmm.
the Spider-Man motions.
Hmm.
I died to this. I still laugh about it. And I even asked like people, like, did you guys see Joab's story? It was hilarious. And they're like, no, I didn't. And they're like, oh, that was a web. I'm like, okay, y'all clearly don't get the reference.
Right. Right.
Weird weirdos. That's what I was thinking. But that killed me. I was like, oh, this dude's funny. I was like, he's
Yes.
funny and a bit of a comic book nerd. Like, I was like,
Hmm.
okay.
Someone was gonna get the reference. I love it. Someone was gonna get it.
Yes. So, but first impression, I was just like, I thought of Stoic and calm. Like, I was like, oh, he's just like this kind of like somewhat serious, shy dude, right? Then
Hmm.
seeing that story, I'm like, oh no, he's funny. And then hearing you speak more in book club, I was like, wow, we kind of like somewhat think the same. But what led me to kind of send Joab a message, um, because just like one day I just like wanted to affirm him because he's done that to me. He's done that
Mm.
like he would affirm me in book club and I think if I ever like liked a story or something, you would like swipe up, be like, "Thanks, Darien," or be like, "Hey, dude, good luck with this," and you're like, be like, "Thanks, Darien. I hope you have an awesome week." Like, Job's just kind. First of all, he's just like
Thank you.
he's such a kind guy. I say that I'm not I'm saying that like how dare you? It's just like he's just kind. Like there's just a side to that. So what inspired me to like send the DM is just like I wanted to affirm you wanted to affirm you. And then I said, I also think we should be best friends. I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
I think we should just be best friends. But like, like in a kidding way, like, I'm gonna be your best friend, right? And but I was like, but no, in all seriousness, Joab, I think like what you say in book up is cool. I love like the way how your mind works. And I wish you the absolute best, bro. And just know that you have like a cheerleader, right? And he in kind first of all, I get the emoji from Joab that is just like tears, like shocked and like the tearing up one. I'm like, why? And then I learned that he thought I wanted to psychoanalyze him. That's the only reason why I said, let's be friends. I was like, oh, I didn't know I wanted to be friends with a paranoid one. Okay. Just
I mean, listen, that was the first thing that crossed my mind. Listen, can't be too careful. But
yeah.
like I said, I've grown to, and that's the other thing. I'm not always the most open at first. Like I think it takes me a bit. I'm not like so reserved where I'm like I won't talk to anyone. No, but I think when we're talking about like establishing a friendship, I think that's
Yeah.
something I maybe a bit more, I guess, apprehensive about, because
Yep.
like,
Yep.
you just certain people you let into your space. I feel like what I've heard and like what I know about you, like that kind of made it a bit easier for her, because it's like Dara's cool. Like again, your mind is just like just so. And first of all, I don't know why you say that you don't speak so eloquently like other therapists, because you definitely do. I don't maybe I could definitely could see like maybe it's hard for you to see it when you're doing it, but when I see it and you're doing it, like when you're like talking about a topic that you're very passionate about, whether in BCM book club or even on the pod, like it comes out, and like your brain just starts working, like, and starts putting pieces together that just like was like, oh dang, I didn't even think about it like that. Like that's you, Darien. So yeah, I think that level of analytics, if you will. I think that's what we really like connect on mainly, is like the analytical
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you, friend. I'll say thank you. I was gonna crack a joke, but I'm like, no, nope, nope, nope. Just say I receive it. I think BTM taught me that. I think
Mm-hmm.
like a whole group of you were just like, just say I receive it. Like at one point, I
Yes.
was like,
Yep.
dang.
Yep.
Yes, and also like when I reached out to you too, right? If you guys really want to know how Joab and I became friends, when I reached out to him, by that point, we were like, our book club was like, I don't remember know what book we were talking about, but it was getting deep. Like we were
Mm-hmm.
really a group of us were getting quite vulnerable. So shout out to our book club, because shout out to that space, because we literally were like safe spaces, like a safe space to each other. So you really get to know a person when you're like being vulnerable with one another. You really get to understand how their mind works and such. And I was seeing that. And you and Cherie are a little bit similar too, in terms of like how you guys think, and like also how you guys like affirm other people. Um, and Cherie, I've known since I was 14, so I was like, oh, okay, I know this personality a little bit, but yes, that season I recall it was just getting vulnerable. That and then it was a new year, and I was like, you know what? I just need to make more friends. So I was like, let me try something different, because it's not that I did that was not it's not in my nature.
Mm-hmm.
I
Really? I didn't know
what?
that.
I
For
got
real?
stranger danger a thing in me.
What?
For real? Did you not? Were you not there? Like that BTM service when my mom came on and she said, "Darien was like my little empath." I used to call her that
Yes,
because
I remember that.
yeah, when she just put all my business out there. Love you, mom.
On
And
blast. On blast.
yes. But she was making some really good points though. So I was
She
like, all
was.
right, for the
She
cause,
was.
for the cause, as she always does, for the cause. Um, but yeah, it was stranger danger. I'm like, I don't know. You don't need I don't know you. Why you don't need to be up in my business? I got enough friends, thank you. And and God be like, do you can have more. We can allow more people in our lives. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I guess. So I'm glad it really worked out with you. I'm glad you weren't a jerk.
Yeah. I couldn't even see myself being a jerk. That's
No,
just not
I
even in
can't
my
either.
nature.
If someone ever said that, they're like, Joab's a jerk. I'd be like, he's having a rough day. How dare you? And I'd be like, then I'll hit you. I'll be like, are you having a rough day? Because this is not in your nature. Like, this is,
Mm,
but you wouldn't even be a jerk in a rough day. I would just probably just wouldn't see you. Just be like,
yeah,
I'm taking
yeah,
a moment. I'm
that's
taking a
fair.
space.
That's fair. I think I definitely isolate myself. If I am having a rough day, I definitely won't be around in close proximity to other people. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, makes sense.
Okay, let me ask my final two questions because I'm also looking at the time. All right. So okay, I'm glad we established how we like met and what really established like our friendship. So now, what made you like want to just like do this too? Because Joab, like you're busy. Like you're busy. I mean, getting a PhD is just like ain't no small fee. You also sing at your church's praise team every now and then, or you're sometimes get asked to do like a praise team worship, like go back to Long Island and do a service. You're very committed to your family. I mean, I know
Mm,
you just have some brand new nephews, so
yes, yes.
Joab is a proud uncle.
A
That's
very
another thing.
proud uncle of three. Of three.
Of three, and one of them
Mm-hmm.
looks exactly like him. I was like, bro,
Yes.
tell
Yes.
us the
It's
truth.
scary.
That's really your kid. I was like, just tell us the truth.
You know, when my sister was posting the baby pictures, I was like, I hope people don't think this is my kid, because like no, like he looks like very very close to me. But then again, that's just because like from my dad's side, because I look exactly like my dad, like exactly like my dad. So from my dad's side, like his genes for the men are like super strong. So
Oh,
I
okay.
could see, I could see why. I could see why.
Yeah. So I mean, you're very committed to your family. Like, if your family needs you, you have no problem just saying, "I'm heading back home for the weekend," right? So you were definitely there for your sister when she gave birth to them cutie pies, them baby boys.
Yes, yes, yes.
So yay! How exciting! How exciting! Right? Um, and then like I mean, you got a life, like, and then you help out in BTM. It's I know you help out more than like people don't be knowing what he's doing behind the scenes, but he's doing behind the scenes stuff. And what else? Like, what else? Like, you just do a lot. You just do a lot. You're busy. So then you had the audacity to just say, "Hey, Darien, you should totally start a podcast, and I will help you."
Oh my
And you
gosh.
did this, and you said this in your fourth year of
I
school,
know.
and transitioning into your fifth year, which it doesn't sound like the final year is the easiest. If anything, that's just like, okay, this is all hands on deck. This is like everything that you've been working up to. It's like the Avengers movie. It's like leading up to
Mm-hmm.
Infinity War, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to Endgame. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is like everything here. And you still said, "Yes, sis, I got you. I'll help you out with this podcast." And mind you, my dude is like really committed to it, that like my mom was like, he's really committed. Like, he's really committed. Like, he's looking up different softwares. He's doing different cover art. I'm like, I think I talked to Joab a lot. Like, I think if we look through our text chain, it's a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
conversation. But you like, why? Like, what made you just like take this on, right? And is it tapping onto that creative side of you?
I love that you're picking up on that, because like that's, I mean, honestly, that's exactly what it is. I so remember how when I said back in senior year of high school, I had all these accolades of like all the things I've done in high school,
Mhm.
which was, the different type of bands, symphonic, marching, jazz, drama club, football, trig, all that stuff. Like those are stuff I was doing simultaneously. I
Wait,
was,
hold up. You play football too?
yeah, I was in football as well. Yeah,
Makes sense why you got that Luke Cage physique. I got you.
I'm done.
No, seriously.
Yeah, I was offensive guard. I was a lineman in football. So yeah, but yeah, like I was doing all these things, and so much so sometimes like they would all like intertwine with each other. So there would be times where I'd go to school from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., then have practice from 3 p.m. to like 5 p.m., and then I'd have jazz band from uh, I don't know, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., and that would be my day, right?
And when did you do your homework?
I would do my homework like, right after when I got home, or I would take that break between. No, actually, no. There would be some times where I'll do it in between classes. Yeah, I think I'll do it like in between classes, or just find spaces between the day, because I was not gonna come home late at night to do it. I definitely don't think I was doing that. So I'll definitely find time in between. But I say that to say, if it's something, and I've realized this about myself, if it's something that I genuinely love and care about, that saying is like, if you'll make time if you care, like I definitely go by that, especially with this, like, because I care so much about this person or this topic or this project, I'm so passionate about it, it doesn't feel like work so much because it becomes enjoyable to me, right? The way I kind of equate it to is like, that's like me being in my leisure time. My typical leisure time is like watching something on Netflix or playing video games, right? Um, but there are times where like a project that other people could see as like work or a project, that to me is leisure time. I kid you not, like editing the videos for each episode, that's leisure time, believe it or not, because it's like it's something new that I'm learning, which the editing software. It's something that's like engaging my creative side because like I'm trying to figure out new ways to like edit the clips and like the effects and animations, like all that's like tapping into my creative side. Um, and it's something I'm passionate about, like mental health, you know. And it's you, like you know, like I love your whole mindset, and it's like everything about you. So it's like it's like well, win-win on all fronts. So, and I think that goes like for everything, you know, helping Devontae with BTM. What else? Like the PhD. It's like yeah, I wear a lot of different hats, but I think going back to the whole accolades thing, like I was able to manage all those things and structure them where it wasn't like I was like being burnt out. Granted, am I perfect with burnout? Absolutely not. I definitely still get burned out and probably still am burnt out, but that's a whole discussion for a different day. But um the one thing that I realize is that like having that balance of not spreading myself too thin, but also making time for the things that I love, and rediscovering things that you love over the things that you used to love or probably still love, like when where that takes place in your on your plate. um I think that's kind of like the core for me. um yeah, I think that's the best way I can explain it, because I can get it sounds like, oh my gosh, like you don't have time to do anything for yourself, like you know, you don't have time to like live life. um but I think after my third year or fourth year of my PhD is when I realized like I really haven't done much for myself. Most of the things that I've been doing has been like for academics, helping other people with their projects in terms of like other students, mentoring them inside and outside of the lab or TAing for specific classes. And I just realized that although that's like I do love mentoring, that's not where I could say like the root of my passion and my heart lies. The core of it will always be creativity. Will always be creating. Unless I'm not creating, like I could almost like always say like there's not passion there majority of the time. So yeah, I think the reason why, again, starting the pod, like I said, just a lot of my passions aligned: mental health, the creative, video editing, um, just all that combined just makes for a recipe of just like creativity and productivity, I guess. So yeah.
I have so many more questions, but maybe we're just gonna have to make this into a part two.
Ooh,
Um, I know.
I wouldn't be opposed.
Okay. Well, you heard it here. So when I put you in the schedule, I don't want to be like, ah, no, it's okay. I'll be like, no,
I'm
you said
done.
it.
Dang,
I
don't put me
got,
on blast like that.
I got video recording. Speaking of which, can you send it to me? Like, I got video recording.
Fair, fair.
My final question for you, it was one that was suggested that I ask you. Um, and this is definitely coming from an academic space and perspective. Listen, Joab, you highlighted a lot of important things in your story, right? The acknowledgement of a failure, right? That you failed. You literally failed a class and you failed your first year of like college, like and then flunk out, but it just wasn't working. And you highlighted that that was the birth of your imposter syndrome, right?
Hmm.
You also highlighted too that you struggled with the depressive feelings because of all of that. You highlighted the importance of pivoting, right? You also highlighted how you recognize that everything happened for a reason. It brought me all to this space. Like if I didn't do well um, in this first year, right, I wouldn't have gone to Farmingdale, and then I wouldn't have had the internship, and then I wouldn't be in the program that I'm in now because I wouldn't have met this scientist that was creating something. I was like, what? Right. So you highlighted like the importance of pivoting and what pivoting can lead to. you also highlighted too that it's not in your nature to just quit on something. It's
Mm-hmm.
just your nature to just, you just knew you knew your core belief was, I was created to create in the STEM field, right? So nicely, this is like a synopsis, pretty much what I'm doing here. So the question that I want to ask, and I want to end with this, because I think this is going to be a really good moment for you to speak to your past self and to those who will come after you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is, as a black man who is getting a PhD, right? What would you like to say to other young black men who are thinking about going down your foot, like walking down the path that you have walked on, right? Or something similar to that. And the reason why I'm highlighting a specific gender and a specific race, right, is because one, we always make something out of that in this country, but two, it's also like you are a child of Haitian immigrant parents, right? You are the only son, it sounds like, right, in your family, right? You weren't the first to go to college, but you were one of the last to go, right? And then also the journey of a black man, especially like here in this country, is not an easy journey. I would never know
Mm-hmm.
what it is because I could never walk in those footsteps. But you know what it is. And you also know too, and we know this together, the higher we get up in academics, the less of us we see.
Yep. Yep. It's very true.
So you're in a very unique spot because you are getting your PhD as a person of color and as a male too. I don't know what's the ratio of like how many more women graduate compared to men graduating, right, or getting their PhDs. I don't know that ratio, but I just think it's just important to highlight.
Yeah.
Um, if you understand where I'm coming from, please refine it and everything.
Yeah.
But what would you like to say to those who will come after you? They may not know you, may not know of you, but there is someone who's thinking about it. And or it could be a young woman too who's interested in your field. So, what would you say?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you say that because literally, like, there was this I had commented on this PhD Instagram page. Um, it was this funny meme of this Haitian runner who was so confident that he was going to win the race. He was like posing and doing all this stuff before the race even began. And as soon as the gun went off, he went to the first hurdle and he just ran up to it, jumped, and then completely fell over and he lost the race. Yeah. And the caption on the video said, PhD, first year PhD students when they think they're going to get into the program and do so well. And it was them tumbling. And I laughed at it, but my comment said, this hurts for me because I'm also pursuing a PhD and I'm Haitian. So just to make a little joke out of that. It hurt on both fronts because of what he was saying was true, but also because the Haitian man lost the race. But when I made that comment, a lot of people liked it. Majority of them were, I think it was a mix of people, but a good chunk were Haitians. Um, and then there was this one Haitian young woman who reached out to me, said she was also in her PhD, and we connected off of that. But then she said she was mentoring a high school student who was not too sure like where she wanted to go in the STEM field, because that's what she's I think she's studying, or she was looking into studying mechanical engineering. Um, but she was also interested in like working with prosthetics. I think she was doing a senior project with that, and she wanted to ask me because I'm in biomedical engineering. What's the kind of what is that the relationship like? So I I will say for others like us in the field, like you just said, it's very sparse. I forget the exact percentage, but I want to say in terms of like the higher education, like PhD space, the percentage for African Americans, it's like I think 1%. It's something ridiculously low. And we're talking about
Yeah.
PhD high academia. It's
Yeah.
extremely low. It's extremely low, and it should be higher. And honestly, what I am seeing now, going to different conferences, I mean, granted, I'm only in the biomedical engineering space, but even in the biomedical engineering space, I do see that there is this niche of Black engineers. There's actually a group, NESB, which is the National Society of Black Engineers, that they're definitely making the rounds through all engineering disciplines. And like I think that's where you'll definitely see like a huge amount of Black engineers. But I say that to say that it may seem daunting at first when you first walk in because, granted, you're walking into a space where genuinely there's not, or generally there's not a lot of people that look like you. I honestly would say there aren't any people that look like you, and that can be daunting at first because it kind of just doesn't make you feel like you belong there. And occasionally you'll run into some people that will tell you you don't belong there, or will tell you like, the work that you're doing isn't of value, or the work that you're doing isn't significant enough. Um, Now, granted, they could be saying that because of like maybe it's the actual work or the science rigor that you're carrying out, or the science like how you're carrying out the science or how you're carrying out the techniques. They could be saying that, but sometimes they're just saying that because of like who you are as a person. You're a Black man or a Black woman. Um, I think the main thing that really is important that should stand out. If there's anything you should take away from everything that I spoke about, is if you genuinely believe who you are and what you say about yourself, and that's your genuine belief, stick to that belief because that will single handedly carry you through everything, no matter what people say, no matter what. I genuinely believe I was created to create in the STEM field. It doesn't matter what anyone tells me, whether they hand me a F, whether they tell me, like, I don't know engineering economics, whether they tell me, like, I don't even know how to do my own research. It doesn't matter what. If I genuinely believe that, some way, shape, or form, you will find a different trajectory, a different path to fulfill that, like you just said, right? So, yeah. Always, 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 always find your community. That even goes in the science field as well. Even though there's a very small percentage of us, there still is a percentage of us. And we, honestly, in my experience, we love to connect with one another. So, if anyone's hearing this, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, anywhere pretty much. But yeah, like I'll definitely love to connect and even just help you with like your journey. Because like I said, it may seem daunting, it may seem like there aren't many of you, but there are people. Your people are in these spaces, and we are killing it in these spaces too. So yeah,
Joab, thank you.
I would say thank you for having me as a guest on the show, but I'm not a
You would
not
have
so
been
much a
here
guest.
regardless.
Exactly.
You would have been here regardless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, bro. Thank you for this. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being a good friend. Thank you for being a really dope producer. Um, Thank you for being such a great supporter. Um, Thank you for being a good brother, because that's how I view you. I mean, we call each other bro and sis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just thank you for the example of you. And lastly, thank you for that motto. We're gonna end it here. This is Joab. He was created to create in the STEM field. That's his core belief. What's yours?
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves, all right? Be in tune. Peace.